This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rangers Assessment, your exclusive Rangers podcast right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure as always to be your host, and I'm delighted to welcome in this week's show. It's a pleasure to welcome the host of the Ibrox Channel podcast, Andrew Simpson.
Hiya, Rob. I was about to say, hiya, Scott. Are you doing? You all right? Are you good?
I'm well, thanks. Yeah, I'm very good. I'm looking forward to getting into this. I don't know if we've done this podcast before. I think we have. It feels very similar to what we've done before. Celtic dropped points on Saturday, and you're thinking this is a big opportunity. This is a big chance to get more advantage in the title race. Try and get back into this title race, and it's nothing ventured, nothing gained. It just stays the same. But I feel weird about it, Andrew, because I thought Rangers played pretty well on Sunday.
Yeah,
but I've seen that performance before. I've seen that result. I've seen that game.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's been many occasions in the past 3 or 4 seasons where, you know, they will slip up, and it was quite a surprise slip up, to be fair, especially being at home. We've got the chance to capitalise and bring the gap down from what was originally 8 points right down to potentially 3. Obviously with our games in hand, if we were to win those. So it's massive, especially this part of the season. And you just feel, don't you, coming into this game, this isn't going to be a 4-0 chips and ham, is it?
No.
Ever.
No. It isn't. And we'll get into the whole kind of, we'll analyse the game, we'll talk about what we learned from it, because one thing I think that we need to say before we talk about the game is, if this was a Michael Beale performance, the buck would stop with the manager. But I think the manager has got in so much goodwill. There was a difference yesterday, because even though it wasn't a vintage Rangers performance, there was still points in the game where I thought Rangers played well, but I thought Clement in his press was absolutely right. There's wee glimpses yesterday. There wasn't a complete performance in that. That's what I like about Clement, is that yesterday, I mean, we've seen really good managers, Rangers managers, go to places like Aberdeen, not play well and win. That is what we want to see. We're not expecting to see a complete performance every game, but and we know that places like Aberdeen, it's going to be very tough, especially when you go behind. But he admits that, he knows that. That's what I like about this.
I totally agree. You know, it's strange when you look back to somebody, for example, at Pedro Caixinha's reign, and Aberdeen, you just used to swat aside, didn't you? They were just never an issue. I personally think that with Aberdeen, we have a psychological problem. I think that it's in our heads that we know it's going to be a harder game.
Yeah.
You're right what you're saying. Clement does have credit in the bank, and he's not really had any slip-ups per se yet. We've been playing a much better actual brand of football. We can actually see identifiably what's happening on the pitch. But yesterday we were very slow at the traps, and it started very sluggish, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And we'll get into talk about it. We'll start with the lineup. Well, we're kind of thinking like all week, will this be the game? Maybe Cifuentes gets thrown in and starts when you. People know I love Ryan Jack, but this is what Ryan Jack is going to do. He's going to, and people are 100% right. He's played 4 games, looked really good in them. I thought, again, he's never a player who doesn't play well. He's always a 6, 7 out of 10 consistently. Plays 4 games in a row, goes away with Scotland, plays 5 minutes, comes back injured.
Yeah.
And that is just repeat. Now, are you going to ask Ryan Jack to sacrifice the chance to play in a European Championship in 6 months' time for his country? He's not going to do that. But on the other hand, when it comes to the summer, and I was of this opinion last summer, so I haven't changed, he can't get a new contract, because you can't. Those these are the games I would think Ryan Jack would be 100% my first choice in the team sheet yesterday. But because he obviously can't help getting injured, but because he's so unreliable and it's not his fault, you can't trust him anymore. Now we'll get into contracts later on, but that is the one for me from that team that I was thinking. The only thing would have been Jack for Cifuentes. I think would have been a natural. I think everybody else was what we expected, but that is the one. That is the problem. Ryan Jack's a brilliant football player, but you can't rely on him anymore.
It is a shame for Ryan Jack.
Yeah.
He's been one of our very decent signings. He's been probably at the club for about 5 seasons now, isn't he? But especially, he's always had injury niggles, but now it does seem that his body just can't seem to cope with the demands. And it's not even big demands really at the minute, is it? With the international duty, he's kind of here and there, isn't he? You're totally right. You can't tell a player like that who's, who enjoys playing for Scotland that, maybe sit out the Euros next summer. No player wants to do that.
No.
But I think he has to make a decision like Kemar Roof did. And I know Kemar Roof's a completely different kettle of fish, wherever he is these days. But he, made the decision to, stop playing for Jamaica. Because just the injuries and stuff, you had Scott Arfield as well before he left. He a couple of seasons ago stopped playing with Canada as well because of just the toll it was taking on his body. You got to know what your body's telling you. Maybe his body's seems to be fine. Maybe there's just a reoccurring thing, but I think we hold on to the past a little bit too much as well. So I don't think we could renew it as a contract. And it's sad to say because on his day he's a fantastic footballer.
Yeah, I mean it hurts me to be of that opinion, but I think that has been the issue. There's too many players there who are unreliable, are capable of picking up really easy injuries. Like Roof's a perfect example as well. And again, it's something that there's one player in particular who I'm completely done with, and we'll touch on it later on. That'll be no surprise to the fans that watch. Warning signs after 5 minutes. A high ball from a goal kick comes up. Majowski gets the header. I think it's Sokol, you pronounce the name. The Aberdeen played with 2 up front, which is something that Rangers haven't dealt with
actually.
this season. Yeah, we don't see it much anymore. But Majowski gets the header. Sokol's able to get in between Goldson and Balogun. They're playing a high line. Sokol's through and goal. Take nothing away from the save. It's a really good save from Jack Butland, but it's a poor finish because he hits it straight at him. Jack Butland doesn't have an awful lot to do. Still does it really well, what he has to, but I don't think it's a coincidence that the goal comes from a better finisher because Rangers get caught out again. They don't learn the lesson, and then after 10 minutes, you're 1-0 down, and again 1-0 down at Pittodrie after 10 minutes. You know how the game's going to go.
It's the same old story, innit? And you could almost just taste it before the match, couldn't you? It doesn't matter what form Aberdeen are in, doesn't matter what form Rangers are. They always come flying out the traps. But that's the thing, we should expect that. And the back line looked a bit shaky at the start. Now, that should have been the warning sign. Anybody that's played football, you go, right, lads, come on, we got away with one there. Come on, let's focus, just start playing the ball. And we didn't. And obviously the goal that wasn't too long after that was defence splitting. It was very similar to the Old Firm game. It was
exactly
too slow to react, strikers in there, and you don't want to give Majowski any chance.
He's a good striker. He's a sort of striker that will take a chance like that. And I don't think it was a coincidence that he was able to finish it because the first chance as one. It's I was confident Jack Butland was going to save it, and I know it's still a hard save and 1-on-1. I think Jack Butland is really good in 1-on-1s. I think we've seen that.
Fantastic.
But Majowski's finish it's a really good finish. But Rangers do come into a bit of life. They have a few chances. A really good move between the likes of Cantwell. Lawrence forces a really good save, and it's a good save with the goalkeeper because he does, instead of putting it sideways where Cantwell's got an open goal, he puts it into the middle, and it kind of makes it really tough for anybody to get near it. But there are some good moves. There's some good chances. I thought the goalkeeper was really good first half, but I just didn't see that spark. Danilo, I didn't think Danilo did a good game in general, but there's a chance where he just kind of flicks it instead of really kind of rattling it. Like, for example, I think a better performance, I think he scores that. I don't think Sima was at the races. And I just thought the first half, they were playing some decent stuff. There was some tidy bits of play, but I was never fully convinced Rangers were scoring in that first half.
And a lot of games under Clement, I've noticed, in his short reign so far, we seem to kind of click into gear a little bit later into the game, and then it's one-touch passing, which is something that was just completely missing under Beale. And we started to do that around 25 odd minutes in, and we were starting to link up the play, and then it just completely broke down. Which was a bit strange. Sima's been fantastic in the early part of the season for us. He was the only real shining light. But now he's kind of having to be used as that kind of winger a little bit out wide. I'd love to see him a bit more through the middle. But of course, when you've got Danilo, who's been, fairly decent as well. Sima was disappointing. I think we were just lacking any real just penetration, for the strikers. There was a couple of times, like you say, like Cantwell managing to flash the ball across. There was a couple of those. But Roos wasn't really fully tested. Lawrence's shot was fantastic. That one where he kind of cut into the box and took it on the turn. That was a decent save from Roos. And I thought from there we would probably start, we'll probably get a goal, but it just started to then drop off, especially towards the end of the first half. It wasn't a great watch.
You brought up Cantwell, and he's a player I want to touch on. He obviously he does that silly dive, which again will be highlighted because of he's Todd Cantwell, and he's a Rangers player, but he hasn't been fully at the races now. I understand why Clement is playing him out right now. I get it. I don't know if it's naturally what he wants to do. I don't know. I don't think he's suited there. But when you look at the team, who else really, apart from McCausland, can play in that position? Do you know what I mean? You maybe could Sima, but who do you play left? And Sima's been fairly good out on the left. So I think he's the player Clement has looked at and went, he's the player who, because I don't think Sam Lammers certainly can't play wide right. He's the player he's looked at and thought, I can play him there just as a kind of stopgap for a few weeks, and still I've got somebody the likes of Tom Lawrence. He can play Lammers on a number 10 if he wants. But Cantwell's the one he can maybe be a bit more flexible with. So I understand it, but I don't think he's been at the races so far this season. There's been a couple of flashes. I thought he was good against Sparta, but I just thought yesterday the kind of game passed him by again. There was some wee flashes, there was some great touches, but it just seemed to pass him by.
Yeah. I think, first of all, the dive, he's got to stop doing that. It's a couple of times now he's done
especially
that.
Especially with VAR, I just think, it's completely pointless. It's the same with McCausland a couple of weeks ago. You're not going to get, that's why VAR's been brought in, because you're not going to see divers get penalties anymore. You're just aren't.
No, exactly, 100%. He's felt a slight hand on his back and he's thrown himself to the floor, and it's not something you want to see. But yeah, I don't like Cantwell out on the right. I can see, like you say, why he's there. We've had a hole there for a very long time.
Yeah.
Probably since Candeas, maybe. It's been such a long time. We've kind of had players come and go from there, and we've never had a settled player. I love Cantwell in behind. I just think it works. It works so much better. But understandably, because why put Lawrence there. It'll be an interesting few weeks. Luckily, with players coming back from injury, but I do hope to see him in behind a little bit more. But you're right. You're totally right. He didn't have the best game yesterday, and it was more of a frustrating performance from Cantwell, if anything. Yeah,
I thought one of the things was that most of his kind of touches came when he was inside, but Lawrence was drifting out to the left and it was giving him a bit of space. But again, it's just, I think we'll get into Limassol kind of later in the team. I think there's one obvious change I would make, but it requires maybe a bit of kind of chopping and changing. But onto Cifuentes. Now, I saw it at half time. There was some things on Twitter that absolutely baffled me, like people saying Cifuentes has been awful. I don't think he was brilliant. I don't think he was a great. I don't think he had a great first half, but I wouldn't have said he was awful. I don't think even Lundstrom was getting it. Now I get why Lundstrom gets it, because it was a game yesterday where he was naturally kind of slowing things down, and I think the likes of him and Barisic, they've just got that in their system. They can't get it out of their system. But I thought Cifuentes, there's a couple of times he's a bit erratic, but I put that down to just a kind of new culture, new climate. I just think I've seen enough for Cifuentes and yesterday to say, like, if he gets a bit of a stable run and just a stable position, I can see him being a decent player. Now, is he going to be the game changer we thought he was? I don't know, because I don't know where he fits in terms of like if everybody's fit. I think there's a few players that you drop out, and it's natural, and that's what you want. But I thought he was going to bring so much more. But yesterday, I thought he was fine. I don't think he was brilliant, but I didn't think he was terrible.
I completely agree. My notes I had that he was a bit of a Sasa Papac yesterday. It was just it wasn't phenomenal, but he didn't really do anything wrong. He's just back from injury as well. Obviously, he hobbled off. I think it was against Hibs a few weeks ago. So he's just back into the fold. It was some players do. We've noticed this a lot in recent years. Some players do take a long time to adjust to Scottish football, and some manage to finally hit the ground running. You could see what he did at LAFC. He's capable of scoring decent goals, especially from distance. He could be an integral part of the team, but as you say, where does he fit in? And that'll be the thing. Clement will be potentially looking to maybe bring in a player or two in January. I don't think it'll be loads, but where does he fit into the plans at the minute? But see how he goes in the next few games when he's back fully fit, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, second half, I thought first 20 minutes again, Rangers. I thought really good. I thought there was a lot but again, it's just that final instinct, and I want to spend a wee bit of time talking about Borna Barisic, because the only person more angry than I was yesterday at Borna Barisic was Jack Butland. Now, you've seen it. You're a first and centre when he saw him in the camera, but there are so many times with Borna Barisic, and I've not minced my words. I don't want him at the football club anymore, and I've said that for 18 months. He shouldn't be at Rangers anymore. He's done. But there's times yesterday where there's a hard pass where if you get it right, you kind of, do you know what I mean? There's so many chances he had yesterday to attack space and get into a dangerous area, get the ball into, find a dangerous pass, but he has it naturally installed in him to go backwards, to go safe. Now, that's no good. That's no good. Now, is that me being is that me naturally noticing it with Borna? Yes, it is, because I've said he's finished. He shouldn't be there. He should have been sold 18 months ago. But there was times yesterday where I noticed there was the likes of Goldson, Balogun, Butland was going apoplectic at him. But this natural thing to play it safe and go backwards is the reason these results happen, because there's no real urgency and eagerness to find a dangerous ball. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least with Goldson, as much as it infuriates me at times, he'll try that long 80-yarder if nothing else is on.
Yeah, he's capable of it, yeah.
Borna's not that anymore. And and it infuriates me, because when, like, his first season, when people were saying, this Croatian guy is not really that good, I'm saying, no, give him time. He knows it. He's trying to get forward. He can put in a really good cross. He still can, to be fair. But that Borna Barisic to now is a completely different player.
Well, you're not the only one, Scott, because of course he's been getting a lot of criticism in Croatia when he's been, playing internationally. So don't worry, he's been carrying that form over there. The left yesterday, we should have been able to try and create a lot more overloads and get decent balls in. The only time we really were able to on the left was when Matondo came on eventually later on. We were severely lacking. It was all left for Sima to do. He was getting crowded out a little bit at times. Barisic just frustrates the hell out of you that he doesn't want to take a man on. Like you say, he just goes for the simple pass back, and then any move or any potential move breaks down. We have done that far too often as a collective, as a unit, for years. And this was something we were starting to do again under Beale, which was getting very frustrating. And you just can't have that now. We need to have quick one-touch pass, and that's something we've started to see a little bit more. Less of yesterday. There was little moments and glimpses of it, but we need to completely open up teams, and Barisic isn't the one to do that. Now, I think the sad reality is, a lot of the time, if he is out there at the byline, he's putting in a peach of a ball, and I think that's the only thing that's saving him at the minute. I don't know what the manager thinks of Yilmaz. Does he favour him? Does he not? Because I think even us as a Rangers support still aren't sure really on Yilmaz. So yeah, it's a frustrating one. Barisic, I don't think he's got long left in him at Rangers.
And this was the argument. There was folks saying, like, Barisic does he get a new deal? And I'm like, no, but you're going to lose value on him. I'm like, well, at this point, there's not really much value in him because
No.
I remember, like, I think it was a season. It was his second season. It was Gerrard's second season. Go back to games in there between kind of like European games, like Porto away, Feyenoord away. He's spectacular in those games. Like you're thinking there. I'm saying that, like, this is a record transfer player. Like, he's in that kind of category for me at that point. But from then he's got it. I don't know what it is. I don't think it was a Gerrard thing. I just think his natural thing is he's not get any sort of confidence now. He's a confidence player, fair enough, but that is no good anymore. And you mentioned Yilmaz. I don't think he's convinced in Yilmaz, and I'm not really either. But in terms of who do I see being a more long-term prospect at the club, there's only one answer, and it's Yilmaz. But I think it's a problem. I mean, it's a problem that should have been fixed in the summer. It was a natural position that should have been sorted. Do you know what I mean? Because even if Barisic has got a year left in his deal, you still need to fix that problem. They'll get into signings because I think yesterday's there's a glaring picture being painted here. But that to me is the biggest problem with Borna Barisic, is that his contract's up in 6 months and you're probably going to lose a bit of value, but Rangers have been experts in that in the past few years. I mean, only Rangers would let Morelos and Kent go for nothing. But again, that's kind of getting into old water. But that sort of thing has an impact on days like yesterday, because that's where, like, we saw Liverpool against Man City, Alexander-Arnold. Do you know what I mean? So dynamic, so eager to get forward. Tavernier was as well, but Tavernier didn't have his best game yesterday. But your modern day fullback can play such a part, especially if you're chasing a game. And if Borna's going to do that, he's not. Do you know what I mean? He's not influencing that game yesterday.
Yeah, it's definitely an imbalance on the wings. He from what, like you say, when you mentioned the European matches back then under Gerrard, especially then, we were just so organised. And I think that he works well when everybody else is playing really well. It just seems to be they're the games that he plays well. For me, like we've spoke about before, when he went on his knees in that Old Firm game at Celtic Park, before the ball's even in the box,
I would have sacked him there and then.
You can't have a Rangers player do that.
And he does it again in the 4-0, but and that's what I'm saying. But we are seeing that, and I'm not saying I still, obviously Clement has to work with him, but Michael Beale in the summer has to have looked at that position and thought that player. Michael Beale was there when they signed Barisic. I was at the game where Barisic was playing for Osijek and he stood out like a sore thumb. That player to now is there's nothing. The only similarity is the crossing.
Yeah,
and you saw yesterday. I thought the free kick that hit the wall. I would say Barisic is set for that. But that's the only thing he's contributing now, and I think if Yilmaz, he's not, Barisic is going to play European games, and that again is something Michael Beale should be crucified for. But Yilmaz, if he's not going to get a run between now and January, what's the point in him? And I know it's no, but do you know what I mean? If you can't watch that game yesterday and think Borna Barisic is a real, like for example, come the Celtic game, Barisic can't start.
No.
Because
I agree.
I just feel the same thing happening again. And I said that at the first Old Firm game. I'm saying I'm delighted Barisic hasn't played. Sterling played at left back. Yilmaz come on. That tells you everything. That tells me everything, that this player who is kind of symbolising now what this squad is. And people have spoke about the core are the same, and I get that, but for me, Barisic is way above them, because we saw this 18 months ago. We saw this complete collapse, this tendency to play for the back. It's still there, and he's still there. He needs to go. He needs to go in January. Get anything for him. He needs to go.
Well, we declined a bid from, I think it was Osijek again, actually, in the summer, I think it was.
But that's where he's going to end up. He's not going to end up. I thought he was going to be like potentially like, maybe not top 6 Premier League. I thought he could go to like a top team in Italy, a top team outside of England. See, now he's not going to get. Rangers will be the best club he plays.
He'll be in the Balkans somewhere,
because he's went so far backwards.
I agree. I totally agree. It's it feels bad to be doing this about Barisic, but you know what? Yeah, we've had it far too long. We've had too many games where we have just seen Bona Barisic be Bona Barisic, and he reverts to type, and he always does.
Subs made. There's a few kind of subs. Matondo comes on with 20 minutes to go, replaces Sima. I don't think Sima did his best game, but Matondo again comes back from injury. I didn't think I would ever be thinking, I'm quite glad to see Matondo back. And for the 20 minutes he was on, he was far better on the left than Sima. Now, I think that is something going forward that's given us a wee bit of hope in terms of that the wide positions which were left to were a monstrosity before Clermont came in. Matondo is, again, just wee cameos, but again, he just does himself favours because he's doing it again. He's just doing that. He's trying to get in. He's trying to make chances. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's taking players on, and he just brings something different.
Do you know what? I absolutely love him now. I absolutely love him. He seems to be one of those few players because when he started playing last year, he seemed to run around with the ball a lot and then lose it and kind of be a bit like he had two left feet.
Mm-hmm.
But then yesterday, the second he came on, I think he put Devlin on his backside like straight away and was straight into the box, great ball across. And it was like, right, this is what we need. He's got such an amazing amount of pace on him. It is key. It really is key. You could build a lot around him. Just that to be able to penetrate like that into the box. And he did it about 3 or 4 times in the short, period of time that he was on for. One where I think he laid a ball for Lammers late on, which was it was a great ball in.
We'll get into
I really
that
do like him.
That was
I
that
know.
sums that up. But there's a couple of good chances. Like the Tom Lawrence strike is a really good effort. Balogun is 2 headers. One hits the bar and one he should score. He should score the header. And they're ramping up the pressure. They're trying. Do you know what I mean? They are trying to get something. And at that point, you're thinking they're making so many chances. They're testing the goalkeeper, but nothing's coming off. You're just thinking this isn't the Rangers' day. Do you know what I mean? This is we've seen this. We've seen this story before. Again, subs. You're thinking with 12 minutes to go, Cantwell and Lawrence coming off. I thought Lawrence had a really good game. And again,
he did.
You can tell he's not 100% fit, but he is the sort of player who, no matter if he's fit or not, if he's 50% or 100%, he's going to create chances.
100%. I totally agree. When he was at Derby, he was so highly thought of there. And I thought, wow, we're actually signing a player that doesn't get injured. I remember that at the time. Yeah, I know. Of course, the curse of Rangers. But it was so gutting when he did get injured when he did. He's been a fantastic player. I remember him against the initial PSV games we had for the Champions League qualifiers the season before. And he was just an absolutely brilliant player. The amount of time he's been out for can be damaging, to a player like that.
Yeah.
But, he's starting to show the signs again that he can, because, obviously he's kind of sitting in that spot, isn't he, where kind of we'd like Cantwell to be ideally, but, he's ideal there in a sense. That shot he had, though, the way he took it just outside the box and coming off the crossbar, it was so unlucky. That was such a great strike. I'm hoping we'll see more of Lawrence this season because I just hope he doesn't get injured again. It just seems to be when you start seeing a player playing well, they just seem to then get struck down by a curse of some sort. But hopefully Lawrence, because that's the thing, if Lawrence does keep this up, I think he'll be pivotal next season. I think he will.
I think he's a big player. Again, I learned that yesterday. I said Rangers aren't playing well. They aren't. Do you know what I mean? It's not 100%, but he's making chances. And as I say, that's what I don't think Rangers have had for a long time. Players who can. I mean, Tillman was a wee bit last year, but I think Lawrence is kind of in that mould as well. I thought Cantwell. I still think Cantwell can be. I just think he's unnatural in that right side. But the subs that come on. Lammers comes on with 12 minutes to go. Ross McCausland comes on for Tom Lawrence. McCausland, I think, is a good impact. Lammers kind of did what he usually does. We'll get into him. One player who didn't come on was Cyril Dessers. Now, I was very much of the opinion, and I've said this a few times on the show, in that sort of instance, Aberdeen played 2 up front. Try 2 up front here. Do you know what I mean? put Dessers on with Danilo, see what we like, but Danilo wasn't at the races yesterday. I think you could have put Haaland with him yesterday in a two-man partnership. I think just was a game that, again, some like Campbell just passed him by. But Dessers has been your big money signing, well, one of your big money signings, and he doesn't get a sniff. That tells you everything for me.
Yeah, that's not a good look, is it? Especially a game like this.
And I understand why he's made. I understand Clement again. He's not the sort of player for that game, but he's £4.5 million. So
well, that's the
decision
thing.
needs to be made on him.
Yeah, Clement said when he came in that everyone's got a clean slate. We're not looking at the past. We're looking at what you can do now for the club. And him being left on the bench yesterday, I think, says a lot. Now, I don't think he was looking ahead to Europe. I don't think it was that at all. You know, at the minute we've got this situation where Dessers, who was somebody that the Feyenoord fans looked at as being up front with Danilo at one point. You know, there was that idea that was floated a few seasons ago. He just doesn't. We obviously spoke about him earlier on in the season, and you can see what he can do, but he's understandably under Beale. It was a bit of a tactical mess, I think, and I think players were kind of expecting to do things they weren't, really necessarily capable of doing. We've seen him score goals. We've seen him with some great passes. His great through ball for Matondo against PSV was absolutely phenomenal. We know what he can do, but in recent weeks, and the fact that he didn't even get a sniff yesterday, it doesn't look good for him. And we're going to have to try and make something back, potentially. Now, don't get me wrong, he could play next week and score a hat-trick and then suddenly everything's rosy in the garden. He's not exactly got no goals to his name. But it is that feeling that we are probably going to have to sell him in the summer and probably at a loss, sadly.
I think, yes, like before, obviously the penalty still to come, but Lammers with that chance yesterday, my first thought after that was Lammers and Dessers. I don't care if it's a loan. I don't care. Just no more, because that chance, Lammers, for example, see if he'd scored that header and won that game, everybody would have forgot about the first 3 months. Like 100%. You would have naturally, because that is a moment that makes a Rangers career. But it was just so weak. It was just straight at the goalkeeper. Do you know what I mean? That late in the game could have been similar to Arfield last year. Could have won the game. Kind of, as you say, Chips and Hayne took a 2-1 win, but it was nah. But because it's Scottish football, because there's people out there who seem to think there's something weird going on in the world of Scottish football. There's corner in the last minutes. There's shot pulling. I think it's Gartman, I think you pronounce his name, holds Golston back. Referee doesn't spot it. I've noticed, right, and I've noticed this in England as well, I don't know if you have, if there's a possible VAR incident, before they mention it, they'll put the camera on the referee. Now, I didn't notice they did it until this weekend. Okay. They did it in a game in England. They won't mention it for about 10-15 seconds, and the reason they're doing that is because they clearly now have the VAR audio in the commentary booth, so they could hear it.
Yeah,
and they're going straight to it. But I say that my first thought when that was happening was something's happened in that box, and it's likely shot pulling. Now, Barry Robson, again, I want to have a minute on him in a minute or so. Shot pulling is in the laws of the game now as an offence that can cause a penalty. Now, 10 years ago, we spoke about it just before we come on air. I'm doing a thing for the channel where I'm watching back a previous Old Firm Cup final. Every single corner, there's shot pulling. But it wasn't an offence like it is now. So that the problem with this, now, you can say it's a soft penalty because it is a soft penalty. Do you know what I mean? It's a shot pull in the box. You're going to see it in every game. But it's been now outlawed as a foul. So it's a penalty. Celtic get one on Saturday. You don't hear a word about it. But because Rangers got a penalty late on in the game, this is all seen as the JFK conspiracy theorists are out in full force, and it's a penalty. That's the only description. It doesn't matter what period of the game. That is a foul. That is a penalty. Nothing to do with this nonsense of the referee was spending 5 minutes looking at it because he's wondering if Goldson's going to be in the path of the ball. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Rangers gave that penalty away. Us two were up in arms about it. it's a penalty. It doesn't matter what path the ball is on. It doesn't matter how late in the game it is. First minute, 90th minute, it is a penalty.
It's in the rules. It's a penalty. Now, the mental gymnastics we've seen from, and this is what's disappointing. It's not just pundits that really should be up to date with the rules of the game, which you've seen in, especially in the recent year and a half. A lot of them aren't. We've had John Hartson that doesn't understand some of them on the Champions League nights. You got Barry Robson.
Still says your hand can be offside, but that's
yeah. You had Barry Robson a year ago that was arguing about something in a press conference, and clearly now still doesn't seem to understand. His comments are dangerous. His comments, which were something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, but it doesn't look good that another VA decision late on has went Rangers' way. Well, what? And what? Why doesn't it look good?
But that's that's the problem. That's where the media, that's where clubs, that's where players need to come out and really get this, because it is an absolute bugbear of mine. That sort of nonsense is allowed to be in a newspaper, and it's allowed to be on a TV station because there is an audience for it. There's an audience for that type of crap, and
it's sad as well. But
it's
obviously
horrendous.
The newspapers love clickbait. They love articles that, of about 2% truth in them because it sells newspapers. Because for them, the world would be boring and they wouldn't make the money they make. But when you're getting other clubs' AGMs saying, be having Rangers penalties discussed. Yes, we've had quite a few penalties from VAR being introduced, but officials were missing a lot. Now, when you've got VAR, it's a chance to review it. It's a chance to align what happened with the rule book.
I also heard the thing, sorry to interrupt you, this is it's ridiculous as well. It wasn't a clear and obvious error. But it's a foul.
But it is, because it's a shirt pull and the referee missed it.
And it's the same with the handball as well. Now, I'm fully on board with this nonsense of we're looking at, as you say, that AGM's a disgrace and should be highlighted as such.
It's embarrassing.
And it is, and it's not going to go away though, because people in the media aren't calling it out. Now, it doesn't matter. Barry Robson needs to realise that it's not the VAR that he should be having a go at, it's his own player. Because we saw
100%.
We saw 2 weeks ago at Ibrox, the Hearts player pulls back. I think it's Goldson again. Hearts player pulls back Goldson.
Sounds like a conspiracy now, again, eh?
But then you've got Sports Scene yesterday, you've got Michael Stewart saying, this is a tactic of Rangers. No, it's not. It's so ridiculous.
So the tactic is we make another team's player go for a shirt pull. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't surprise me for Michael Stewart, to be fair. The thing is, you can have a problem with the rule, and I can understand that. With VAR, I
think the rule is silly. I think it's do you know what I mean? Yeah. You're going to have a potential where teams are getting penalties every game.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, and there's no problem having a problem with the rule, but when it's a rule that's in place, then you have to adhere to it. It's like the handball rule, like if somebody's protecting their face, you might not like it, and back in the day it might have been a penalty, but...
I would like to think if Connor Goldson gave that foul away in the 94th minute, Philippe Clement would get in there and rip Goldson to shreds.
You'd hope so, yeah. Yeah.
Not coming out and saying, it's unfair that the defenders actually gave away a penalty. It's, this is a bad look because Rangers are getting a penalty late on.
And the funny thing is as well, like you say, before VAR come in, you never really saw that many shirt pull penalties. But
and it's hard for a referee
in my mind
yeah.
was the game at Celtic Park where there was the shirt pull that Celtic got the penalty early on, the one that Christie put over the bar, and then there was 7 other penalty incidents later on in the game with worse shirt pulls that nothing happened with. End of the day, people want to kind of make it look like it's big bad Rangers, and Rangers, there's a Masonic conspiracy, which is absolutely crazy. Celtic have had more penalties than Rangers this season. Celtic had a penalty at the weekend for a shirt pull. Not one Rangers fan has said, that's not a penalty. We live in a weird bubble, and it's not helped by certain pundits, and it's dangerous because there are referees and officials. Like yesterday, when the referee went over, was it Nick Walsh went over to the monitor, the crowd started in tandem going, cheat, cheat, cheat. They're creating this whole thing, and it's not a healthy thing. You know,
But
we can
it's
all have a bit of
but
banter.
it's yeah. I mean, it's been made instead of what the media should be doing is coming out and saying this is quite dangerous, Barry. Like if I was
Yeah.
if I was in that if I was in that press conference yesterday, the first thing I'd be saying is, Barry, look at your defender there. That's what
Yeah,
I would
is
be
it a
saying.
penalty? Yes, there you
Yeah,
go. You
Barry,
know?
look at your defender. Your defender has pulled a shot in the 94th minute when you're winning. You're about to
Yeah.
beat your, in my opinion, the biggest rivals.
Just stay solid and see the game out. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't do anything stupid. That's what you'd be told. Don't go to ground. Don't pull
my
anyone.
first
Don't do
my
anything.
first thing if I was a coach would be in the 94th minute, if you're winning a game like that, and I don't really want to publicise. I mean, a lot of people do think that Aberdeen try hard against Rangers and Celtic. That isn't something that has just been started. People have thought that for years. But instead of publicising it, what I would like to say is that is a massive game for Aberdeen. That would have been a massive 3 points, and the defender has cost them 3 points, in my opinion. That's what should be publicised, not, or it's a dangerous look giving Rangers a penalty in the 94th minute. It's a penalty.
It's like Robson stirring the pot for a certain cup final that's
But,
coming up later on.
that as well.
And it's
but
foolish.
That as well. But again, and I'm not. We've spoken about this before. I'm not. The standard of refereeing in Scotland is rubbish.
It is.
But
You're right. Yeah.
why on earth would you want to get into refereeing and go and being that? But every referee will want to do a big game. Why would you want to? Why would you want to get near that? Because your integrity is called into question for getting decisions right because it's a certain club. That is, it's so dangerous, and it's again, it's mollycoddled too. It's mentioned at AGMs. It's something that
and pubs that referees attend are also mentioned in certain AGMs as well,
and
which is just, again, embarrassing.
It is dangerous because people
Yeah.
people have it in their head, and they're never ever going to get it out of their head because it is pandered to in the media at AGMs by pundits. McFadden yesterday is an absolute disgrace because
that was
he's bringing
bad.
that.
Yeah.
But again, I've heard Hearts on more than one occasion talk about a hand being offside. Now, he doesn't know the rules of the game if he said that more than once, but he still gets big games.
Yeah. Yeah, I do wonder how he does, to be fair.
Yeah, but looking aside, Tavernier, obviously, this is what I love about James Tavernier is that is a pressure moment.
100%.
So confident, puts it away. It's a 1-1 draw.
Right down the middle as well.
What right down? Yep. And at 85 minutes, I would have said I'd take a point all day long. It does still feel like 2 points short. It does feel like missed the boat in terms of putting pressure on Celtic, but it could have been a lot worse. So I feel strangely okay about it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Clement responds with the squad with that. Because, you know, we haven't beaten Aberdeen now since May. It's been a few games now, and we don't really want this to become a thing. And it's mad when you think about it, because Aberdeen are 9th in the league. They're still 9th now, even after the draw. They've had a very mixed season. Obviously, Robson was complaining a lot about European football. That's what happens when you're in Europe. You play more games. But it is a frustrating one, especially knowing what was at stake yesterday. So it'll be hopefully big words from Clement and a few backsides, hopefully. Not violently kicked, but kicked into action.
We saw news just breaking just as we're recording this. Ros McCausland has been confirmed to sign a new deal till 2027. I think it's a really good piece of business. I think it's something that it can only be a positive for the club. Again, if he's a player that Rangers have used, he's a player that can only improve. I think this is a really good bit of business. And again, if he kicks on, big money in Rangers' pocket if he gets a big sale.
Well, do you know what? Just seen him. Obviously, yesterday it was a bit of a different game for him, but seen him in the previous games before. My goodness, he was phenomenal. I felt so sorry for him when he got his goal chopped off a few weeks ago, which was it just seemed like absolute madness. But he's such a shining light at the minute. He's fast, he's sharp, he's not afraid to take people on. He runs at people. And that's what you want from a player. And, you know, when the rumours were in the week that, clubs are circling around from Europe, you just knew, you know what, he's a Rangers fan. You know, he's, Northern Irish. He loves the club. And I just had a wee feeling. I thought, you know what, I don't think he'll be wanting to leave just yet. So a great bit of business by the club. And if he ends up going, you know, if there's somebody does come in from, then, you know, we are making use of our academy and, you know, hopefully selling high if we do eventually, which I hopefully not, I hope we don't see that. But yeah, no, fantastic. To 2027, fantastic deal.
Yeah, really good bit of business. Thursday night, Rangers have a home Europa League tie. As far as I'm aware, I think they can clinch qualification or European football after Christmas. If they win, this is obviously a big game. Limassol, they've a point to prove, obviously. Put that horrendous showing behind them if they go and win on Thursday night. In terms of the team, I don't think it will change too much. Obviously, Balogun will certainly come out because he's not in the European squad. Brilliant Michael Beale. I think there'll maybe be a couple of changes. I think Balogun obviously will come out. Suter, I would imagine, comes in because I don't think Davis is fit. I don't know where he is. I wouldn't be surprised. I think he maybe keep Lundstrom and Cifuentes. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think he's got anybody else really for that position. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts Cantwell through the middle and maybe gives a start to maybe even puts Sima to the right side and plays Matondo, or keeps Sima left and plays McCausland.
I think the safer option probably to start that type of game, probably Sima. Don't get me wrong, it's, you know, it's a game at home, it's against technically the bottom team in the group, no disrespect to them because they've already beaten us. But it'll be, I hope it's one of these jobs where we go out there, just wrap it up, get it done. Aris, you know, they've scored a few goals in this tournament. You know, they're not exactly been fully the whipping boys that I think they've only really lost one game badly against Betis. You know, they were close with Sparta 3-2. You know, they're top of their league at the minute as well in Cyprus. There's like about 3 teams like joint top at the minute. So they've obviously got something about them and they'll be motoring on. I just hope we can respond from obviously Pataudry and you know what, clinch European football after Christmas, because once again, it's fantastic that we're looking to do this. You know, obviously last season was a bit of a blip back in the Champions League for the first time. But to see us have European football after Christmas, it's what you want to see. And we've got so used to it, it should be just a standard now. Yeah,
absolutely. Give us a wee score prediction for Thursday night.
I'm going to say 3-0.
3-0? Big call. I'm going to go maybe 2-0. I think it'll be a different performance. I think there'll be a wee point to prove. I think Clement will be looking... I think I'm confident. I think we're both confident. I'm going to go 2-0 to Rangers, and I think Rangers will clinch European football. And we're going to finish up the show there. That is the Rangers assessment for this week. Just so you know, I don't know if you've seen it on social media, we are announcing we are moving to Patreon. So the Rangers assessment will still be a free podcast, but there will be a lot more Rangers bonus content on our Patreon channel. So for only £2 a month, you can subscribe to that. So tune in and check that out. I want to thank my guest for this week, Andrew. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on there, Scott. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Always a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for everyone tuned in. Follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channel, and check out us on Patreon. Thank you. See you soon.